already a weird concept that I'm watching myself, but I do this every day now, so fuck it. You guys get to see me do it. Unlawful and dangerous kids took down a statue honoring a Nazi soldier, erected by a neo-Nazi 48 years after World War II ended in 1993. That's basically what happened at UNC last night, but for the Confederacy. Silent Sam is a Confederate soldier honoring the Confederate UNC students who died in the Civil War. For those of you who have never read a book, they died defending states' rights to own slaves. They fought and died to continue enslaving black people. So this is a point of contention for a lot of people. Right off the bat, I know that a lot of people that watch this video, specifically Republicans or conservatives or people who've bought into the idea that the Civil War was fought for anything but the states' rights and their material, the material benefit they get from owning humans, they're wrong. They're completely incorrect. They've bought into this revisionist perspective created by a lot of the people who, ironically, are those who are trying to put these Confederate monuments up all around the country during times of Reconstruction and also in times of heightened racial tension, for example, the Civil Rights era. So that's part of the main things that I will be addressing in this revision of my actual original video, because of course it's a freaking 3-minute video, and unfortunately there's not a lot of room for context inside of a 3-minute, 4-minute video. So that's why I do these little things where these little babies where I tell you guys a little bit more further in depth about this. So starting off with the idea that whether the Civil War was fought over states' rights or if it had anything to do with the economic or material benefits of owning human capital, owning humans as then yes, I can describe it to you with specific mission statements from both, I think, the Mississippi one. I can tell you quickly, like, unfortunately, while everyone was learning American history in I don't know, 4th grade or whenever the fuck you learn U.S. history, I was in Turkey learning about the Ottoman Empire and European history. So unfortunately, this is an area that I have a lot of weaknesses in, but still, surprisingly, I know more than the majority of Americans who still believe that the Confederacy had an honorable mission and an honorable purpose behind their reasoning as to why they wanted to secede. Let's take a look. Yeah, Mississippi reason for secession. So historians continue to debate why Mississippi and its sister southern states socially the Union issues such as state rights and high tariffs are frequently cited as cause of the war. Oh, here's one thing I will mention, by the way. The North didn't expressly fight to end slavery. The North expressly fought to keep the Union. The South, however, expressly fought to preserve slavery. All right! Preserved the right for states to have humans as slaves. Slaves meaning black people, as you know. For those of you who aren't from America, I feel as though I need to explain this thoroughly, unfortunately. Given the fact that there's still some weird debate around this, I have to mention that as well. Now, the two examples in the mission statement of why Texas and Mississippi seceded, they perfectly described their reason for secession for exactly the reasons that I mentioned. Hold on, I'm going to tell you exactly what the quote is when I pull it up on the side. God damn it. Declaration of Causes. 1st of March, free, sovereign, independent nation in the annexation. Texas one is even more damning than the Mississippi one, so I'm just going to go directly to that. Hold on. Because it literally... Oh, okay, there we go. Texas abandoned her separate national existence and consented to become one of the Confederate states to promote her welfare, ensure domestic tranquility, and secure more substantially the blessings of peace and liberty to her people. She was received into the Confederacy with her own institution under the guarantee of the federal constitution and compact of annexation that she should enjoy these blessings. She was received as a commonwealth holding, maintaining, and protecting the institution known as Negro slavery, the servitude of the African to the white race within her limits, a relation that had existed from the first settlement of her wilderness by the white race, and which her people intended should exist in all future time. Her institutions and geographical position established in the strongest ties between her and other slaveholding states of the Confederacy. Those ties have been strengthened by association. So, it's fairly, there are multiple mentions to the American Negro and their place during the Texas Secession documents. It's honestly the most insanely stupid fucking concept I've ever heard. Whenever people try to say like, no, it wasn't for slavery, it was high tariffs. That is a revisionist perspective. It was because of slavery. Let's keep going. People love to refer to the Texas or their states as women. I don't know why. These monuments were erected to either minimize that message in an effort to rewrite history and glorify the Confederacy, or sometimes to outright say, these ideas these men died for, I agree with them. Oh, so this is a very important perspective. Now, the reason why I mention this is because Daughters of the Confederacy is a group that actively worked to do this. They actively worked to do the biddings of white supremacists in the aftermath of the Civil Rights era. Their whole purpose was to gather women and children and ensure in educating them with this revisionist perspective that the Southern cause, they deemed the lost cause, mind you, is entirely different than ensuring that slavery continued. I can't turn the cam on when I'm playing the video because unfortunately it's coming from my desktop audio. For the love of Lily, if you want to watch that, you should go to my goddamn twitch.tv/Hasanabi, as I freaking mentioned in the freaking description. That is the pinned comment. Holy shit. Okay. Unfortunately, you can't get the full quality context if you watch it on my Instagram. I'm doing this as a promotion. Anyway, I do this every day on my Twitch. Sorry, I yelled at a bunch of you and like 20 of you left. I don't know, left to come over to Twitch and follow me there, or just left in general. Anyway, as we were talking about the Daughters of the Confederacy, which, by the way, funded the creation of the Silent Sam statue, the statue of a student soldier that is facing the north. It's very specific symbolism that is important. It's glorifying the students of UNC that literally took arms to fight, in North Carolina, mind you, took arms to fight for the Southern cause. Now, I'm going to get into the Daughters of the Confederacy movement a little bit, like what their purpose was, because obviously I need to describe it a little bit further, because most people don't have any fucking clue and completely forget, and a lot of people I talk to, well-intentioned people, completely miss the point or are genuinely confused as to why the Civil War happened, where because of the misinformation created by historical revisionists such as the United Daughters of the Confederacy. Now, by the way, a quick side note, I know I'm taking multiple side notes at this point, but historical revision isn't necessarily a bad thing. That's what literal historians used to do for the longest time until the Holocaust happened, and then Nazis adopted that terminology for themselves in an effort to make themselves seem more serious than they actually are in order to infiltrate certain scientific circles. So now, whenever you hear, oh, you're a historical revisionist, obviously it has a negative connotation associated with it. Well, historical revisionism wasn't necessarily a bad thing. That's literally what historians do. They fucking talk amongst themselves. There's a debate, for example, and I've mentioned this in other Twitch streams in the past, like how there is an ongoing debate about surrounding the Holocaust between functionalism and idealism, whether or not, or intentionalism, sorry. Functionalism versus intentionalism. Was the Holocaust, like the end point was complete eradication, ethnic cleansing, or was it actually functionally that way because they were scapegoating a certain element, a certain subsect of the population? So that is technically a form of historical revisionism that even surrounds the Holocaust that isn't actually, that's historical. Those are people arguing in good faith, debating back and forth to arrive at a truth. Unfortunately, a lot of people argue in bad faith nowadays and ruin arguments in its entirety. It's something that I personally love. Having theoretical conversations with people about almost every single issue is a beautiful thing. That's how you arrive at the truth a lot of times. But it sucks when the other side is completely debating in bad faith and is a shitlord, which is what a lot of these conservative thinkers are. And also some of the democratic thinkers are that way as well. It just depends on what their ideology is. All of their ideologies are wrong, except for mine. I'm the only one who's right. Anyway, so the United Daughters of the... That's a joke. So, we were talking about the United... Sorry. Oh, it's so stupid. I'm such a stupid person. I honestly always... Okay, United Daughters of the fucking Confederacy. God damn it. Holy shit. It is so hard for me to stay on track sometimes. Okay, so the United Daughters of the Confederacy are literally that. They're daughters of the Confederate soldiers, and their entire purpose for their existence is to rewrite Civil War history. And they've done this through putting up monuments all around the country, and they've done this by trying to re-educate people by a sense of community, by going to churches and telling them, like, this is how we do it. Like, the South didn't actually fight to preserve slavery. We were actually just fighting for state rights. So anytime you hear someone mention that, anytime you hear especially a Southern person, especially a white person mention that, they're completely mistaken, and they're being guided by the shitheads that are the United Daughters of the Confederacy. They do this by putting up monuments, and they do this by trying to sell textbooks, trying to change actively the educational curriculum, all of that sort of stuff. Anyway, moving on from that point. Specifically the racist stuff. But no matter what, they're second place participation trophies. And as Americans, I thought we didn't like that kind of stuff. As a matter of fact, even Robert E. Lee didn't like that kind of stuff. In regards to such a monument being erected, he wrote, "My conviction is that, however grateful it would be to the feelings of the South, the attempt in the present condition of the country would have the effect of retarding instead of accelerating its accomplishment, and of continuing, if not adding to, the difficulties under which the Southern people labor." Wow, Okay. So the reason why I mentioned Robert E. Lee, the reason why other people will mention the Stonewall Jackson descendants, for example, in the aftermath of Charleston, the family, the great-great-great-grandchildren of Stonewall Jackson literally had this to say. Hold on, I'm going to find that as well. Robert E. Lee is the famed Confederate general that whose ugly-ass statues you see all around the country, for those of you who don't know. He, in his deathbed, refused to uphold any sort of Confederacy imagery, understanding that he had lost, and it was important for America to unite in the aftermath of this Civil War, that it wouldn't necessarily be a good thing if the Confederacy was remembered in a positive light. That's Robert E. Lee, motherfucker. That's the dude who's that schools are named after still for some weird reason. That's the dude who has monuments dedicated to him all around the country, because it doesn't have anything to do with commemorating Robert E. Lee as a great man. Well, it has something to do with that, but it mostly has something to do with the fact that the idea that these people represented, that was an honorable goal to keep black people as slaves, was this honorable goal for the South. That's literally all that it is. My fucking phone fell. I'm angry. Anyway. But even, like I said, Robert E. Lee himself was against the idea of commemorating Confederacy, commemorating the Confederacy or talking about the Confederacy in any meaningful way. So, fuck you if you're still like, oh no, you know what? Robert E. Lee himself didn't know what was good. That was, by the way, Robert E. Lee's anti-Stonewall Jackson monument statement that he made. I forget exactly what the date was, but that was the statement that he made in against putting up a Stonewall Jackson monument. Robert E. And then following up with that, actually, in the aftermath of the Charleston protest that a lot of us forget was happening because a Stonewall Jackson memorial was being taken down in Charleston. I mean, in not Charleston, sorry, Charlottesville. All right, was it Charleston? No, I mean Charlottesville was a separate thing, but. Hold on. Stonewall Descendants. I'm fucking up a little bit. I unfortunately can't multitask this way. Grandchildren. Take down the monument. There's a really powerful thing that they said. That's why I want to say that. That's why I want to mention this. Okay, so Stonewall Jackson's grandchildren, his kin, literally said, the great-great-grandson of Thomas Stonewall Jackson, are you fucking kidding me, Mercury News? I will kill you with this. Oh my god. Okay, for those of you on Twitch, look at this bullshit, dude. Even freaking Mercury News has a paywall now. Are you fucking kidding me? What the fuck? They're taking away my freedom of speech, goddammit. I have a right to free press. Why are these goddamn mercurial news taking away that right? Okay. I've reached my 30-day article limit. I've never even looked at Mercury News before. What the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, the Joe Rogan video I've actually seen with Dave Rubin, right? Where even Joe Rogan himself is like, yeah, this is stupid. Like, we should probably... Man, shut the fuck up, Mercury News. What the fuck? Oh my god, I'm so mad. I am so mad at Mercury News right now. Are you fucking kidding me? Okay.
You have attacked me and lied.
For the subscriber, Ramsey, resubscribing for Mercury News. Fuck you, lol, he says, as he's subscribing. Okay. Oh yeah, Slate. Slate is hopefully not behind a paywall. I will literally freak. I will freak it so hard. I'll freak it so hard my phone will fall down again. For those of you who are still on Instagram for some weird fucking reason and refuse to go on my Twitch and watch me there, I don't understand what the purpose behind that would be. Anyway, as I was saying, so where is it? Removal of these. So the mayor, Richmond, Virginia, native Richmonders and also great-great-grandsons of Stonewall Jackson as two of the closest living relatives of Stonewall. We are writing today to ask the removal of this statue as well as the removal of all Confederate statues from Monument Avenue. They are overt symbols of racism and white supremacy, and the time is long overdue for them to depart from this public display. Overnight, Baltimore has seen fit to take this action, and Richmond should too. In making this request, we wish to express our respect and admiration for Major Stoney's leadership, while we also strongly disagree with his claim that the removal of these symbols, Confederate monuments, literally of their great-great-grandfather, does nothing for telling the actual truth, nor changes the state and culture of racism in this country today. In our view, the removal of the Jackson statue and others will necessarily further difficult conversations about racial justice. It will begin to tell the truth of us all coming to our senses. Last weekend, Charlottesville showed us unequivocally that the Confederate statues offered pre-existing iconography for races. The people who descended on Charlottesville last weekend were there to make a naked show of force for white supremacy. To them, the Robert E. Lee statue is a clear symbol of their hateful ideology. The Confederate statues on Monument Avenue are, too, especially Jackson, who faces north, supposedly as if to continue to fight, which is identical, by the way, to the fucking Silent Sam statue in UNC, the statue that we were discussing, but then I got off topic too much because I need to describe to you the complex nuances of this incredibly complicated piece of US history. Sorry. Fuck. Okay. Whew. Anyway. While we are not ashamed of our great-great-grandfather, we are ashamed to benefit from white supremacy while our black family and friends suffer. We are ashamed of the monument. The reason why they're afraid of the monument, by the way, as they mention somewhere down here, God freaking damn it, I can't find anything quickly while I'm also live streaming on both different platforms, is supremacists. Okay. Oh shit. Well, they're actually talking about this again. They're talking about the UNC story. Okay, well, I'm going to get to that myself. So I'm not going to let the great-grandchildren of Stonewall Jackson steal this from me, steal my moment to shine later down the line. So we're not even going to get to that. But they want them removed as well for the exact same purposes for the exact same fucking reasons that we talk about wanting to remove these statues.
Lee was a slave owner and used the R word? Double bad. And let me...
Oh, also, yeah, he said, Robert E. Lee said, to retard the nation. And I made a little joke there about ableist slurs. But back to the video.
Let me make something clear. I don't want to take these statues down just because the people depicted may have been racist. There are plenty of statues of people who did bad things. I'm not trying to blow up Mount Rushmore anytime soon. No.
Or am I? No, all jokes aside, so this is one of the conversations that I have with a lot of people who are either speaking on behalf of the indigenous people, the First Nation people here in America, or a lot of people who speak on behalf of
how three at least of these dudes on here were slave owners. Now, it's important to note that, not three, but regardless, it's important to note that the Founding Fathers were also slave owners. The reason why Mount Rushmore is not necessarily the kind of monument that, of course, glorifies these people, should not be removed, or at least from my perspective. And I completely understand if you have a different perspective when it comes to this, especially if you're a black person or a Native American person and you have a personal, understandable grievance towards our founding fathers who basically committed unstoppable genocide and had slaves and continued to have slaves. It's pretty fucked up stuff. The reason why this is very different from my perspective, the reason why this sort of a monument is very different than a Robert E. Lee statue is the reason why they put this up. They didn't put Mount Rushmore up to further oppress black people. They didn't do this to further oppress Native American people. They did this because this was, every nation has, unfortunately, every imperial nation has violent roots, and we must not forget that. But these sort of monuments, these sort of shrines, are not necessarily dedicated to that violence, but to the progressive things that those people have done. When in fact, the other monuments that I'm referring to, specifically the other monuments I'm referring to, such as the Confederate monuments, they're not necessarily commemorating the progressive causes or the good things that these people have done. They're just simply to oppress. They're just simply to either oppress black people in the way in both Reconstruction America and also in during the Civil War time, just times when racial tension has escalated, to tell people, hey, we're going to put this in the public square so you know your place. This isn't necessarily the same thing, from my perspective, and I might be completely wrong. But that's why I would never call for the removal of this monument. In comparison,
I want to take these statues down because they were erected to uphold white supremacy long after the battle was fought and lost. That's why these monuments weren't put up during the war or immediately after, but 40 years after the Civil War.
This is important, again, right around the time that the NAACP was founded, right around the time when the Klan was resurging as the Invisible Empire. These are moments. This is actually in 1913 when Silent Sam was put up, right here, when all of these statues were being put up all around the country.
War was over during the resurgence of the KKK, and then another spike in the 1960s during the Civil Rights era. I mean, there are monuments to the Confederacy in non-slave-owning Union states like California, for Christ's sake. Do you think they were honoring their fallen brothers in the war too?
Like, whenever I see Confederate monuments in Ohio, or in like Michigan, or California, or Oklahoma, which wasn't a fucking state at the time, you know what that's for. You know what that's about. That is exactly the intended negative consequences of the revisionist perspective that the Daughters of the Confederacy have been promoting since the Civil War ended. That's literally that. That's that in action. And for some people, they don't give a fuck. Some people are misinformed, and they think, oh, no, this is the right way. I'm just upholding, the honorable preservation of the South and Southern heritage and Southern culture. It's not about slavery. A lot of people are misinformed, and they genuinely think that, and we should treat those people with more tolerance, for sure, and try to educate them. But then there are plenty of other people, for example, those neo-Nazis or just racist shitheads who love the Confederate monuments because they're like, yeah, I love that the South fought to preserve slavery, to maintain slavery. Those are the shitheads. Those are a little harder to argue with because they know what the fuck they're talking about. Historically, their perspective is more accurate.
They literally killed those fallen brothers. And while I understand there's something...
Anyway, by the way, for those of you who are still on my Instagram for some weird reason, I'm actually going to just close this one at this point. So come join me on the other one. Come join me on twitch.tv/Hasanabi, and peace. Anyway, all right, back to the video.
Weird about changing the status quo in this way, especially when these monuments aren't actual shrines put up alongside legislation to segregate you. And understand there's something weird about changing the status quo in this way, especially.
So the reason why I mention this, the reason why you get this like weird creeping feeling when you hear that people want to take down a statue,
immediately it's upending the status quo in a meaningful way, right? So, of course, as a person, usually as a person of privilege, such as myself, I have the privilege of not participating in any meaningful way in slavery one way or the fucking other because I'm Turkish. I grew up in Turkey. My historical roots do not extend in America to upholding or fighting against slavery in any way. So for me, I'm like, when I hear that, for example, there was a story, I was talking to someone from USC, there was a story about Traveler, the Robert E. Lee's famous horse. Now, Traveler was famous for being a racist horse. And USC Trojan's horse is also named Traveler. So there was a petition in USC, and students wanted to take down this horse. They wanted to rename the horse and name it something different. And of course, when that happened, so many people got mad. They were like, what the fuck? This is important. This is a part of our history. It's a part of USC's tradition. Why? Why name the horse after Robert E. Lee? Why name it after Traveler, a famous horse, famous for bucking every black person that's ever sat on it? That's literally what Traveler did. That's the important reason why Robert E. Lee's horse also has mythology surrounding it, because the horse too was racist. So, like, the fact that these tax-paying citizens have to pay for these public monuments, in a lot of instances, these are public shrines, these are public monuments, so you're literally, as a black person, paying to keep and maintain this fucking shrine dedicated to showing you your place in American society, then, like, why the fuck would you want to do that? Same with USC. Why would you want to fucking, as a black student, already marginalized on college campuses, because, you know, you're like, at the very most, 6% of the college campus is represented in the student body is like 6%. Then on top of that, your tuition is literally paying for this. Like, of course you would be upset at that. But that requires you to take a step back and go, hey, I'm a privileged person. Let me just think about this from the perspective of a black person. Let me just put myself in their shoes for a second. You know what I mean? And a lot of people don't want to do that. A lot of people want to be ignorant on purpose. And and I get that too. In some respects, I get that. If you want to be ignorant on purpose and you want to turn a blind eye to this sort of stuff, then just don't even fucking take a stand on it, okay? Because a lot of people refuse. That the frustrations I have are with the people that not only are ignorant on purpose to the realities, they just refuse to understand the other side, but then on top of that, they take it one step further and go, I'm not going to learn your side, but I'm going to take a side. I'm going to take a side with the Confederacy. And that's fucking weird. They lost, dude. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to say? What are you trying to uphold here? And that's what I don't understand. When people are like, I'm not going to talk to black people and understand because it makes me scared. And I get that. Part of me understands that. Like I said, the reason why I'm mentioning this is because as someone who has no dog in this fight whatsoever, but someone who, of course, has a personal perspective on this matter, I thought when I first heard the story of Traveler the horse being renamed on USC campus, I thought to myself, well, that's a little extreme. That sounds kind of like the hysterias of really emotional college students, like really emotional undergrad who's just upset for no reason. Who cares what the fucking horse is named? Did you know what the horse's name was? But now, once you do know what the horse's name is, you have two options. Either you shut the fuck up and let students decide amongst themselves, or you take action. You take action in one way or the other. And those are the two options you have. So for me, I was like, I don't give a shit about this one way or the other because, like I said, I hadn't thought about it more. But then once I started talking to the students, and especially once I started seeing the negative reaction to the one student at USC campus who actually brought this up. Because, you know, there's always that one kid who's like too woke. He's fucking too woke for everyone's own good. He ruins the party. He ruins everything. I'm not necessarily saying in this instance he was wrong.
All right.
But he's the one who's like, that fucking horse is named Traveler. He's the one who puts two and two together. Because not everyone, no one in the USC alumni history is probably fucking promoting the USC horse's Traveler and celebrating it as Traveler because it's Robert E. Lee's horse. Do you see what I'm saying? And then someone comes along and says, oh, wait a minute, I'm going to connect the dots for you. So once those fucking dots are connected, yeah, I understand if you were to feel uncomfortable because something that you didn't even give a shit about is changing all of a sudden, and immediately there's a part of us that wants to preserve it.
No matter what it is, good or bad, you're like, holy shit, the status quo is changing. I don't like that. It's showing me that death is inevitable, and all of a sudden I'm going down this fucking rabbit hole, and I'm thinking about all these different things. If they take the traveler horse, what else is next? It's all ridiculous. Okay, it's all ridiculous. Just name the fucking horse something different. Who gives a shit? Obviously, these people have a valid reason to give a shit. The other side, unfortunately, does not. The other side's opinion on this matter is that they want to continue upholding white supremacy. Like, ridiculous. You lost, bitch. Sorry. Anyway, continuing on with the video. Holy shit, I'm out of breath. Hold on. I'm gonna close my door real quick.
Especially when these monuments aren't actual shrines put up alongside legislation to segregate you and do you harm. But at least arm yourself with the knowledge of what the original intent was in putting them up. And listen, I'm a 27-year-old idiot, okay? I didn't even grow up in this country. Don't ask me, ask a historian, Jane Daly, who said most of the people who were involved in erecting the monuments were not necessarily erecting a monument to the past, but were rather erecting them toward a white supremacist future. So back to Silent Sam, the Confederate soldier slash student sitting at the heart of the UNC campus. Silent Sam was, of course, commissioned by the Daughters of the Confederacy, and I'm just gonna read you a passage from Julian Carr's dedication speech to the monument at the day of its unveiling. Julian Carr, who also celebrated beating up a black woman. The present generation, I am persuaded, scarcely takes note of what the Confederate soldier meant to the welfare of the Anglo-Saxon race during the 4 years immediately succeeding the war, when the facts are that their courage and steadfastness saved the very life of the Anglo-Saxon race in the South. When the bottom rail was on top all over the southern states, and today, as a consequence, the purest strain of the Anglo-Saxon is to be found in the 13 southern states. Praise God. Carr here is referring to the KKK upholding whites.
Really weird, that statement. It just sounds a lot like he's talking about upholding the purity of the white race and how much the continuation of Confederates helped in upholding white supremacy and the purity of the white race. Oh wait, that's exactly what he's arguing, because he's an ex-Confederate soldier, and that's precisely why he's arguing that on the fucking dedication speech to this goddamn fucking statue. Fucking dedication. And the reason why he's arguing that is because he's a white supremacist. So this is a ridiculous idea. You know what else he fucking said that I didn't put on here? I briefly mentioned before I introduced his statements on white supremacy. What Julian Carr said, hold on, I have to find it. It's insane. Like, it's literally insane. Hold on. I trust I may be pardoned for one allusion, howbeit it is rather personal. 100 yards from where we stand, less than 90 days perhaps after my return from Appomattox, whatever, I'm butchering it, I horsewhipped a Negro wench until her skirts hung in shreds, because upon the streets of this quiet village she had publicly insulted and maligned a Southern lady. This is a dedication ceremony to the Silent Sam statue that was taken down last night, okay, in 1913. Holy shit. He's literally talking about how he whipped the shit out of a newly freed, well, not newly freed, but, I guess newly freed in that moment. Yeah, newly freed black slave woman. Like, ex-slave woman. Still continuing on that Southern tradition. Yeah, she had publicly insulted and maligned a Southern lady and then rushed for protection to these university buildings, where was stationed a garrison of 100 federal soldiers. I performed the pleasing duty in the immediate presence of the entire garrison, and for 30 nights afterwards slept with a double-barrel shotgun under my bed. He was worried that the federales were going to come get his ass for being a racist after they fucking fought long and hard and lost the right to do so. So that's the kind of mentality that goes on when these people are putting up these monuments, okay? Don't let anyone fucking fool you. It's not about a preservation of history. It's as a matter of fact, it's the opposite of a preservation of history. It's revisionist. It's trying to change history. It's trying to change history for political purposes. And that is what's important.